Now, and it's actually even more than one of those. Yeah, but I'm saying I have a hearing. Stand here. They want to do it soon. I said, I understand why he's saying let's do it. No, mayor wants everybody back in their office.
I know.
We're like 17 council members, whatever else.
That's great.
They make it work.
I thought that was so inspired.
Are you here to start?
Sorry.
Yeah.
How many people are online? Is that working? 14.
Sure.
Okay. Yes, sir. All right. I don't have a gavel, but that'll work. The audio's okay, Sean. So, hi, welcome. We'll get started. Sorry to. Oh, actually, no. You're walking in. I'll be quick.
Sure, yeah. Just, I guess I don't.
Welcome.
Yeah. If you're playing 5-cent soccer, it's the best thing around.
All right. Good evening. Let's get started. This is starting up. Part of this is the June 2023 ANC wants the meeting. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming from online. Of course, the camera's over here. So first, just want to ask everyone's patience. It's the first hybrid. So we're trying to figure out, make sure we got all the technical things together. But for those who are in person, that's easy. We can see. Those who are online, hopefully the camera angle is all right. So we'll get started. I will be going back and forth here, so don't let me just to make sure that this scrolls properly. But we'll just start introducing ourselves. I think we haven't generally seen who do we have online from commissioners. Do we have any commissioners on?
Commissioner Dixon's online.
Okay. So we have at least 8 of the 9 commissioners here. Let's do a brief introductions. I'm starting down here, Linda, I guess.
Hi, Linda Lawson, 106, the part of junior high school. This is my first year on the commission, so my conversations in person ANC.
Hi, Jake Palestinian, Commissioner 1C07, the heart of Adams Morgan, from 18th over to 17th from Florida up to Columbia. I've been on the commission now for about two years.
Gordon Shapiro, 1C08 on the southwest corner of the ANC, which runs from Florida up to Euclid and from 16th over to Jake. I've been on 5 months now.
John Jones, ANC 109, on the east side, 16th Street to the gap in 16th Street to 17th. Space between the street in between there. The Columbia Road down to Cal River. Okay.
Peter Wood, I'm 103. It's right in the middle. They're in the corners, I'm in the middle. 18th to 19th, Billboard's Wyoming.
Hi, I'm Commissioner Stevens for 1T05. That is the part of the Muir Heights at the back of the zoo. We're bordered by Walter Pierce Park, Rocky Park, and Harvard Street. And we have the famous Station 21 and famous kiosk in the large Ontario Park.
Hi, I'm Daniel Michelson Horowitz. I'm 1C01, the southern borderlands, if you will, bordered by Florida and where California hits Florida, just beyond 18th. up to where Columbia and Connecticut round out into Florida again, including the historic Adams School, which will be the topic of conversation tonight. And just so you know, the audio, I'm getting a message, the audio is really bad.
Doing my best.
Yeah, I hear you. Just making sure you sound.
Commissioner Dixon, can you hear me? Introduce yourself. Southwest-ish, or almost northwest one. Commissioner Van Wyon. We'll move on. So I'm saying something here. Okay, Commissioner Van Wyon. Sorry, like I said, technically difficult to work. So, Commissioner Van Wyon is 104. That is, mine got changed. It's just north of 103. It's my frame of reference for most things. We'll try to clarify that. So let's go. Officers' reports. I'll start chair's report. Let's just getting together. Hopefully it's not too hard. I will reflect afterwards. It's however just do it afterwards. There's a lot of behind the scenes effort. Thankfully the line has been really gracious and basically it's just let us use the space how we need to. So that's good. The goal is to have one of these once a quarter rest online, but we can assess whatever is in the best for the community. That if there's something I forget, chairs or what I'll think about it. Get back to the secretary.
Second report is that we have the usual schedule for June meetings. This is the goal of 7. Next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m., June 14th, we will have the Public Safety Committee meeting. I'm chair of that committee. The following Wednesday, June 21st at 7 p.m., we will have the Planning, Zoning, and Transportation Committee meeting. Commissioner Dixon is the chair of that committee. And then on June 28th, Wednesday at 7 p.m., we will have the Public Safety or Public Services and the Environment Committee meeting. Commissioner Laughlin is the chair of that. So that's the upcoming meeting schedule. All of the committee meetings this month will be held over Zoom. So we're going to do those still continuing on Zoom, and then trying to do these hybrid meetings every 3 months or so.
And who's next?
Treasurer's report. As of May 31st, we had 11,041.03 in bank. We had there was one check outstanding on that date for 500, and there's subsequently been one check written for 500. So our checkbook balance is 10,041. We are continuing to have problems with the auditor, who now is saying that what was provided last year wasn't sufficient.
We're trapped in bureaucracy, unfortunately. I think we'll get through it. There's some paperwork. The good thing is we haven't had too many unexpected expenditures. No, besides the one on the post office tonight. Let's see. Vice Chair, why you have anything? Can you hear me?
Can folks hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, great. Well then, that is all to say, no updates from me.
Okay, next. Now let's get to just single member districts updates. We'll just take it this one. Start with you.
Well, okay, so good news and bad news. We did have a major apartment fire on Adams Mill Road. And I just want to thank Station 21 and all the other firefighters and first responders for responding very quickly and putting that fire out and not allowing it to spread to other structures. It was a large fire. And of course, the best news is no loss of life, no serious injuries to pets or people. I've spoken to the fire marshal. He is going to thoroughly inspect the building once the repairs are the company. And also some trees had to be cut down so the water starts to get through, and those will be replaced by forestry. So that's all the news. They're following up to see if everyone's taken care of until they can move into back. And a bit of very good news. We lost Phil's Coffee on the corner, which is a major meeting point for the community. Foxtrot is moving in soon, so there'll be a little market, coffee, lunch, takeout, eat in, dine in, that kind of thing. So that's very, very exciting. So it's on the corner of Adams Mill and Lanier Break. So that's all.
The ones online, so Commissioner Van Wye. And if you're a committee chair, also please give any committee updates.
Sorry, it's still a little difficult to hear. Did you just ask if I had any single member district updates?
Single member district updates and committee updates if you're chair.
Yes, just one note from my single member district. I've received a number of comments about a potential restroom to go into Walter Pierce Park. I just wanted to note that I've planned to reach out to discuss whether that is the best placement for that restroom, but I just wanted to make sure that folks were aware that those messages have been received. And if you have any additional thoughts on that, please reach out to me. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts and potential suggestions. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Dixon. I'll be louder. Commissioner Dixon, your turn. See if we make progress. Okay, we'll move on. So yeah, 1CO3, the main thing, still trying to figure out what's going on, but been months, if not years, in the process. 1,800 blocks of Colorado and Wyoming, to one-ways. It's supposed to have started yesterday or today or sometime this week. Technically did start like 2 months ago to get the signage changed, and then I think this what DDOT representatives told me is that they're ready and scheduled to begin the actual line painting and such to have that finished this week. I think they put up signs to have parking temporarily moved because they do have to paint towards the cars of parking just before they get back. The left sides of the road all parked the same direction. They haven't actually done it yet, so who knows what day they'll actually do that. They did tell me, I think that some of the signage might actually be for a separate product on some streets, like a block over. I've gotten a ton of emails and calls from people about it, but basically DDOT said that they often will kind of guess a bigger range of dates that they need to have parking removed, but it's often much less than that. They just want to give themselves kind of some leeway in case the weather doesn't accommodate. But hopefully it'll take much less than the entire month of June to get the lines painted. So that's a hopefully product that'll be seen. I think it was actually technically before the last movie, but just because we're here. Then we had to walk through with the parks. 2 of the 3 were in ANC 103 with DPR, and still continue to be in contact with them. Hopefully we'll get some progress on things. I'm in Colorado Park a lot, and also there's 2 technically parks right next to it. They're really small. So I see a lot of it. I talk to a lot of people who do a lot of volunteering yet. So hopefully that'll make progress as well. There's definitely some needs there. And Colorado Park gets a lot of use. So hopefully they'll get structure updates and needs. Besides that, I think, I remember the chair update I forgot to mention. So in July, the Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis Administration, used to be ABRA, they'll be holding a hearing on the resolution that we passed last month regarding the moratorium zone. I plan on testifying as chair. Anyone else in the community, including commissioners, is free to do so as well. That will be July 13th, I believe. It's a virtual meeting. It's good because it's a work day. Otherwise, limit public input. But again, appreciate everyone. I think it was like 6 or 7 months of actual formal input, and then significantly more after before that to really get to where we stand. So that's the chair part. Then once you 3 part as well. Thanks. Go ahead. What's going on?
What I want to say though is I was kind of pleasantly responded by meeting the rest of my committees. I saw everybody on Zoom. We were recognized in the way, but it's good to be here beyond providing public service. The outstanding issue in my ANC was frankly right outside my window. I live in an apartment building across the street from Brook School, across the street from the parking lot. from Cook School. And during the pandemic, when kids couldn't go to school and the parents were locked down, etc., there was this Humpty barbecue at the entrance to the parking lot. And they did it every other week or something like that. But then it took on a life of its own. And the problem is, it was just young adults and teenagers. And actually, I felt kind of good because it was something family could do together and not meant to be in a mess and that sort of thing. But the problem was that it was unregulated. And you get that many teenagers together, young adults together, you know you've been a problem with interest. And so every now and then, once every month or so, they're fighting, you know. So the neighbors across the street and my neighbors and my neighbors. So I was an ordinary citizen before, and I had limited access to trying to solve the problem. But 3 weeks ago, it happened again. And I mean, it had the barbecue and the noise and the yada, yada, yada. So some of my neighbors were complaining. And so I then got in touch with I sent an email to the president of the school, the principal of the school. And I got in touch with the 3rd district. And I said, look, we got a problem. How are we going to solve it? You know, my knee-jerk response is, I said, before I prefer for there to be a healthy outlet for everybody, the men and kids and no different. And but we got a problem, how we're going to solve it. And we talked a couple of minutes, and what we agreed to do was as soon as they, because right outside my windows, as soon as the kids show up with the barbecue grill, I'm going to go down, I'm going to call you. Me and the cops are going to go down and talk to them and say, look, you got responsibilities as well as to the neighborhood as well as to yourselves. And but because it was impromptu, it was not scheduled by any particular person, there was nobody to contact prior to that to tell them beforehand, this is, you know, we got a problem together, we got to solve it. So the following Friday, which was last Friday, they didn't show up. You know, I got to know the cops. The cops said, as I said, they were meeting down there with the people who we identified as organized with. They said, let's talk. This is what you got to do. You got to be concerned about the noise. You got to be concerned about when you're going to break this up. You got to be concerned about the traffic generated. But they never showed up. But I still have that plan with the 3rd district. So when they do show up, you know, I'm going to go out and put this program in practice. But that's the only thing that is really out there that I know of, except for the trash can we're talking about in my ANC. Any questions about it?
Good update. All anybody is talking about an RSMD is the U Street project. It is universally opposed. I've yet to hear anybody say they like the idea. It's just too big. So how we deal with that, I don't know. I'll be testifying against it for the zoning commission. Anyway, that's on the larger scale. On the smaller scale, finally got DOT to paint a line down the middle of the street. It was a one-way street, but it's actually a two-way street.
It was actually a two-way street on Belmont right at 16th, and there actually were accidents there. So now it's clear that it's a two-way street for the first 30 yards at Belmont. And I've got a slew of other things with DOT that we're trying to work with them on concerning Belmont and 17th and Crescent. A lot of it surrounds Meridian House use of the streets, and when they have events there, which seem to be more and more frequent now, while they get out off-site parking, not everybody uses the off-site parking. So sometimes people that are going to Meridian House will stop and they'll find a parking spot on Belmont. And the parking's non-existent there. And then also some of they're not limos, the big SUVs like the Suburbans with diplomatic tags will sit and idle on Belmont and Crescent. So we're going to hopefully work out something where Meridian House will inform everybody not to do that. And also maybe I can get DOT to come over and write tickets at every event that Meridian House has. They're not a good neighbor, so.
Right, I got a few updates. As Chair of ABC and Public Safety, let's just give you all the proposed agenda that we have for this Monday. I sent it out to the listserv today. Well, 1 o'clock in the morning today, so I guess technically today. But that is to first to have a public safety update from the precinct officers at 303. So anyone that has had any public safety issues should please feel free to come. We always try to open it up to anyone that has any comments about it. So please feel free to come to the committee meeting next week and let us know how things are going. We will have specific crimes that in our SMDs that we will be following up with the police about. So you have specific ones that you'd like us to make sure that we are contacting them and getting updates on, please. Next up, the aforementioned Foxtrot that will be going in Biltmore Place. They have requested 2 liquor licenses from the city. The first is a Class C restaurant license, and we will be considering that at next week's meeting. They're also requesting a Class C full grocery license. And so, because it'll be both a restaurant inside of a full grocery. And so they'd like to sell liquor as, So they will be requesting both of those licenses, and we'll do their presentation next Monday. And then there's one Monday or Wednesday. Sorry, next Wednesday. Did I say Monday?
Yes, you did.
Sorry, next Wednesday. So they'll be and then the other is there's a liquor license renewal request. It's for, I'll come back to the agenda and give the name after I get past a couple of other items that I actually have up on my computer right now. But that will be on the agenda next Wednesday as well. So those are the 3 items that are currently up. Couple of other things I just wanted to alert the community to is the ANC officially received what is this document called? The bus priority concept selection letter from DDOT for the Columbia Road rework project. So the concept is now, this is not the NOI, not the notice of intent yet. This is just prior to the NOI. So this concept's just previous to about 30% design. And then 30% design is when we get the notice of intent to the community. And that should be coming pretty soon. This has been worked on pretty hard. We've got a pretty solid concept at this point. So we will post that up both to the listserv and also to the website, so everybody can take a look at that design. Feel free to come to they'll be held at an upcoming PZT committee meeting, Planning, Zoning, and Transportation Committee meeting. We'll have the DDOT designer actually come, present on the design. The community will have the opportunity to get feedback at that point. And then that will probably be the last point at which the community can give feedback on the design before we receive an NOI for the project. So take a look, get your sense of what you like about it, what you don't. Please come back to us, because this is going to be the last point at which the ANC at least has a lot of influence in this process. Because at that point, it will go over to DDOT and the official process that takes place through that notice of intent. Yes, there's a question. Or it would be through a resolution. So that's why we'd host a meeting for the community to come and give their feedback on it. And then the ANC could pass another resolution. We did already pass a resolution about the Columbia Road design that we received prior to another resolution based on the feedback that we get. And then the community also has its own opportunity to provide feedback on your own through the NOI process. Make sense? Yep, totally. Two other things I just want to alert folks to, big things that are happening. The council's budget came through and we were able to save the circulator, which is absolutely huge. So we submitted our resolution in favor of the council retaining the circulator route through the neighborhood. That went to the committee at the very last minute. The city council voted to at least extend these circulator routes for 1 year. That's the amount of funding that we got out of them. This is going to be a year-to-year process for a while to make sure that we're able to maintain these routes. And I would just recommend that everyone please write your council member. Councilmember Nadeau was incredibly supportive. Please write the mayor to let her know how much you appreciate having the circulator in our neighborhood. And please write Chairman Mendelson to let him know as well, because he was the one in the end that was able to actually save it and put it on put it in the funding for this year at the very last minute. So please continue to advocate on behalf of that if you appreciate having the circulator route in our neighborhood, which I know a lot of folks do, and that's why we passed the resolution. And then the last two things I'd say are that we received notification that Councilmember Nadeau at the very last minute in the budget process was able to get two things inserted into the budget for this year. One was a concept design and impact study for a library based down on U Street and 17th in what would be the redesigned space there. And so we finally actually have money to be able to look into that and see whether or not that would be a feasible project, which is fantastic. And then the second is that, and Jared might actually have more information on this or about what this is. I actually don't know that much about what it is, but like a U Street parking area that apparently there are a few of these in different neighborhoods around the city, which we don't have one here in Adams Morgan, but they're like coalesced parking design systems for various neighborhoods around the city. And one of them was that was inserted in was for a unified parking design concept, I guess is what it's called, for the greater U Street area, which would stretch to 17th Street. So it wouldn't quite hit our neighborhood, but just to make sure everyone is aware of the fact that this did make it into the budget as well, a study for a unified U Street parking design study. I don't know if you have anything else on that, Jared.
Going up, my name is Gerard. I work at the Ward 1 liaison for the mayor's office. But there are some redesign, and DDOT is doing some different things. Some new that they've implemented a new CSI process with residents having an opportunity, and cities also having an opportunity to kind of go online and kind of give testimony or examples of why streets were either too small or too big, and kind of give their insight on that. And each quarter they're doing, each ward gets a certain amount of these done in process. So I think as things are ever changing, I can circle back with my DDOT liaison and try to see if we can. There are some new things going on. I don't know how much of it's going to come up to this area, but again, the rest of it. Traffic safety input, like 2.0, yeah, first it was traffic safety impact, but now they just changed the name of it, and so that's just giving residents the opportunity at first program, anybody can submit a request. So if everybody in here submitted 20 requests, when I put mine in, I will be waiting for everybody's 20 requests looked at first. Now it's everyone gets looked at. We try to see which one's the most priority, and they kind of shoot out. But again, let me get my DDOT first, or language. I'm that extra, but I do have a little bit more.
1CO7, other than just very local things like trash cans and hauling off scooters that are misparked and stuff like that.
Nothing really to report for 1CO6, except that I will be starting to work with some neighbors on some rat control issues. So if you live in a single family home or a residence with, or in a building with 3 or fewer apartments or condos, you can have the city come out to do treatment of the property around your building. If you live in an apartment building or a larger condo building, your management has to handle that. But here's the key. If there are rats on your street, it's really important to get a petition filled out so the Department of Health can not only treat your house, but the entire block, because a rat can travel up to 120 feet. So they travel. So if your neighbor has a problem, it means you have a problem and your neighbor next to you has a problem. So there is a petition that you fill out that's available from the Department of Health. And that just basically allows them to come onto your property and they pump a powder into the hole, into the nest, and then that powder gets on the rat, and then the rat carries it to other rats, and they go off to a better place, hopefully. So I've seen it in action. It's pretty cool. So I encourage that if you're in my ANC 1CO6, please get in touch with me about that. Either way, you can email me and I'll make sure to get you in touch with the right commissioner so that we can get those petitions started for your community. It's rat season, so it's like, and I know because of my community garden being overwhelmed. And then for the Public Services and Environment Committee, last month we had a nice presentation from Kelly Whittier, who's an analyst with an institute at George Washington that did a great report about the relationship between the DC and the National Park System. And even though DC is constantly rated as #1 for parks, it comes with some caveats that a lot of our parks are controlled by the National Park System, and that creates a variety of problems for us because we have little control of when those parks get mowed, when the trash is picked up, the rats, and other things. And so it was a nice presentation about potential solutions and ways to think forward about that relationship. For the June meeting, we will most likely not have a meeting. We mostly meet if there's a grant application, which we don't have at this moment. But what I'd like to propose instead for the community is doing a community cleanup. I've been in touch with UDC and they have a naturalist program where they can talk about working with areas to help them do plantings and fix their garden boxes. And so I'm trying to do a combination of that, and I will send out more details on that when it's organized.
With regard to getting the city involved, is there, do the embassies have to do anything special in order to get the city to come out and do it? Because I have 3 embassies.
They have rats?
Yes.
Let's talk.
Okay.
I believe falls on the embassy to take care of it. I don't know how much the district can do, but I can get you in contact with the DC rodent expert. I have this part somewhere, but yeah.
Yeah, the problem I had, because Polish embassy was on the corner, and there's on Fuller Street where I live, there was a break-in of a car. Now the Polish embassy has cameras that point to everywhere, and the Polish embassy saw. I mean, they saw the break-in, meaning the camera saw it. And I approached the embassy and said, you know, can we have the film, yada, 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 identify the car, etc. And they were willing. The problem is, I went to the police, and the police said, we have to go to the FBI. The FBI has to go to the State Department. The State Department has to then get in touch with the embassy. And they weren't going to do all that. That's why I was asked, that's my take on the question of rats. Is there this whole convoluted process that they would have to go through in order for to cooperate or get the embassies to cooperate to address the rat problem? Because the reason I bring it up is because behind the embassies, some of them have barbecues, and the barbecues invite the rats once the barbecue's over. And so if we can address this problem, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
That doesn't hurt to complain.
Just a plus one for the rodent guy. We've had him come out. They'll come out every 14 days. They're way more knowledgeable than any exterminator I've hired. So just if you've been worried, you just go on 311. It's super easy, and they will help you not only do the powder, but they'll also work with you to change the structure so that they don't come back to your yard anymore. So it's just great. If anybody was worried about doing it, I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, and on that note, I've talked to a neighbor about doing a coordinated treatment of the alley between California and Wyoming. So if any neighbors want to join that, I'm going to get in touch and try to schedule a date so they can do as many treatments as once and get access to as many properties on the same day.
Dixon, go ahead. Thank you to everyone online who's dealing with our lack of cameras. There's people behind you, I swear, we're not just like impersonating. Okay, if we lost him, that's okay. Yeah, so we might have lost him, that's okay. He's the chair of the PZT committee. There's a lot going on. We communicate to the community, so be sure to stay up to date with that. I also forgot one thing for 1CO3. I'll be very brief. 1841 Columbia, there's been a lot of problems. I've been working on it. Gerard's been working on it. Some of the people with Councilmember Mendoza's office have been working on it. We're trying to collaborate. Property managers seem to have a history of negligence, some of which we knew about, some of which kind of came to light recently. But yeah, thank you to everyone who's brought those issues to light. Committee comments, announcements, etc. I think we have a few people that will come from kind of institutions. If you're a community member, we'll ask that you keep your comments to a couple of minutes. I won't be too strict about it, but if it gets too long, we need to be efficient with our time. Anyone online, we'll start with there. Please raise your hand if you would like to say any words or comments. Okay. And if you're going to speak in person, please just say maybe your first name or something so people online can at least have a name because they can't see you. They can just hear you.
Hey everyone, it's Kristen Barden. So just a couple things. I'm going to ask some questions and go back a little bit because it was really hard to hear at the beginning. But what's going to be really important for this hybrid model to work is if you pass the mic around as each person is speaking. Otherwise, those of us online can't hear a thing. So if you can please try to pass the mic between each of you. So I want to go back and ask the Calorama, Wyoming one-way pair. Peter, you had an update on that, but we couldn't hear it at all. And I can't hear anything. Yep, still can't hear. It seems like it's been muted. Yep, can't hear anything.
Try that again.
How's this?
All right, there we go.
Yeah, sorry about that. As you can tell, we're working through some technology. Yeah, so Calorama, basically a lot of spots, not just on the blocks that are going to be converted, have signage that says people need to not park there temporarily. Some of it I don't actually think is related to conversions. I think it's other projects. Sorry.
But speed up this week, starting that conversion. They have to paint lines, things like that. So as far as they've told me, it's something that's ready to start any day, starting yesterday, which I don't think it has.
Okay, yeah, well, they need to take the burlap bags off of the signage, and it won't become live until they do that. So that would be a good indication. But yeah, so you think it's any day now?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, that's correct. I think they'll take care of all kind of a lump sum. They have to plant lines and such, so yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Yeah, is there gonna be some kind of communication out to the public about when that goes live?
Yeah, I think Vlad emailed it Monday, so the people on my list, or my little list of emails, but DDOT hasn't officially said anything, they just kind of put in an email, they have an idea generally, so if they give anything more official, we can certainly communicate that. It's kind of through the general avenues that we usually communicate things.
So the ANC
website,
groups.io,
the listserv,
and then
individual commissioners in different ways.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm getting a little bit of feedback, so it's a little bit hard to hear, still. Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's feedback. I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. Okay, the other thing was, Commissioner Jones, I think you talked about a barbecue that's happening somewhere, but again, it was really hard to hear.
Oh, he was giving an update on, I can let you speak for yourself.
What I can't understand. What
She was just saying that you talked about the audio online is very difficult for people to hear, so just making sure that there wasn't an event that you're announcing. You're talking about community outreach and some constituent services, right?
No, yes, but it had to do specifically with responsibility of the city to the embassies in order to provide a city service.
Mm-hmm.
Because the problem is that the land, as you probably know, the land on which a community sits, embassy sits, is foreign land. So that complicates the process of getting to the embassy in order to solve a local problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I said. I ran into the embassy that I talked to was very willing. It's just that there were so many steps for such what they would consider a small problem. And I don't want this rat problem to be a small problem because, right, so that's why I was asking. That's what I was talking about.
Thank you. So I don't think it was a public, it's just an informal barbecue, not related to kind of putting on the list of bid items. Yeah.
Okay, but where was the barbecue? Where were these informal barbecues happening?
What?
We'll just talk about that off this. How's that sound? Just because the connection's hard and it seems to be, yeah.
Okay, all right. So yeah, so let's so Foxtrot, I wanted to go back to that. So that's great that they're coming to the ABC meeting next Wednesday for their 2 liquor licenses. I know they are starting to pull their permits for construction. So I think they're hoping to be open early next spring, spring of 2024. So just so folks have some guidelines of when they're hoping to be open. So the Columbia Road Bus Priority Project, again, it was kind of hard to hear what Jake was saying, but Foxtrot is going to be in the former Phil's Coffee building on Adams Mill Road. So yeah, and I think they're hoping to be open early next spring. I think one of the things that still needs to be worked out with the Columbia Road Bus Priority Project is converting some of the side streets to metered parking during the day, and then RPP residential parking in the evening, so that we can find some more metered parking for customer use during the day, since so much of the curbside is going to be repurposed, so along Columbia Road. So I think that's one of the items that still needs to be figured out. So we should add that to the agenda at whichever committee meeting is gonna be discussing it. So because we need to find some more metered parking for customer use. Going back to the rat issue, we have on Saturday nights, there's a gentleman, his name is Bomani, who's coming to the neighborhood from Baltimore, and he's bringing his rat dogs, and they're super efficient in killing rats. And so if there are alleys that need attention, please feel free to send me a list, and I'll send those to Bomani. He's doing this to get his dogs exercise. So he's not charging anything. And last Saturday, they got over 30 rats. So it's very, very efficient. And he's a really nice guy. So we're really glad to have his help. I think that covers my questions. So let me tell you a little bit, and I'll share my contact info in just a moment. I'm Kristen Barden. I'm the director of the Adams Morgan Partnership, for those that don't know me. For those of you that have been coming to our movie nights, I hope you've been enjoying them. We had our third one last night. It was a huge crowd. We probably had over 900 people at Marie Reed Field. They're literally like, we're people all the way up to the fence on the California Street side. So it was really incredible. Great weather, great movie. So we have 3 more in the series. They're all on Tuesday nights. And this is a comedy series this year. So the next one is Raising Arizona. And then we have Bridesmaids and Shrek. Shrek will be the last one. We wanted to do that after school has closed so that kids can stay out a little bit later. And we're going to have some fun, family-friendly events along with that. We're going to have a face painter and someone making balloon animals. So please come and bring your kids. So, we are meeting with the Mayor Special Events Task Group on Monday to present 3 dates for pedestrian zone events. We're hoping to close 18th Street. And I know there's a resolution later on in the agenda about this, but we're hoping to do an event on Saturday, July 29th, Sunday, September 10th for Adams Morgan Day, and then Saturday, October 14th for a fall porch fest. So more to come on that. But those are the 3 dates that we're trying to get approved. And then you probably have seen some new bus shelter posters go up in the last couple of weeks. It was time for a refresh. So we hope that everyone will enjoy those. They're some fun kind of, whimsical kind of ideas. So, the rest of the kiosk work, I think has been completed. We added lights that are now powered by the solar panels to help light up the kiosk in the evenings. They're on a timer. So the timer is set right now to 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. So, and we'll adjust that, with the light cycles. We have drag story time. It's happening now on the last Sunday of every month at 11 a.m. In Unity Park. So the next one is the end of June. I don't have the date in front of me, but those are a lot of fun in Unity Park. So hope folks will come out to those. Hopefully you all enjoyed Spring Porch Fest. We had about 44,000 people that we counted with our pedestrian counters. So it was a great event. And again, we're going to hopefully do another one on October 14th. And let's see, we are going to bring back the Admiral Vibe, the summer concerts that we did in Calorama Park. Those will be on Wednesday nights in August when there aren't ANC meetings, so that everyone can go and enjoy those. More to come on that. I'll report more on that in July. But the Admiral Vibe we are bringing back. And Justin Treywick is already confirmed for one of those nights. And let me think if there's anything else. Oh, and the World Culture Festival. I think you've probably heard a little bit about this. This is going to be a huge festival on the mall at the end of September, on September 29th through October 1st. It's I've heard it being referred to the Folk Life Festival on steroids. So they're expecting a couple 100,000 people to come to DC over the course of those few days. So it's really going to be quite the event. And they're partnering with us to do some previews of some of that work. Some of those events will be, they're going to have some performers join us for the Admiral Vibe concerts. So you can have a preview of some of the entertainment that they'll be bringing at the end of September. So it's really going to be a very special weekend, that World Cultural Festival. And I think that's it. So I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you so much. And again, I'll be very apologetic tonight. Thank you to everyone that's bearing with our technology. We do have good hardware, I promise, but we don't have good software. So we're using phones, and there's like 3 different microphones in the room broadcasting as everyone's being said. Is there anyone online that has their hand up, Sean?
Is there any other community input from online people? I think we might have some in person. Okay. Next is Beatrice. Welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
We sort of can, but it's not your fault. There we go.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So regarding the bus, dedicated bus and bike lane, that has nothing, that does nothing for traffic safety. Cars, vehicles continue to speed up Connecticut Avenue into Columbia Road. We have had near misses. I have had with my own daughter crossing the street near misses. There have been cars going over the fence into the park, into the garden, front garden of the Wyoming building. That does nothing either for the problem of residential parking. You're removing 100 spaces of parking, residential parking, and that is it's aggravating the middle-income families that live in the neighborhood. They have harder time moving around. If you don't know, you cannot go with a stroller, open a stroller on a bus. You have to fold it. So try carrying a small child, a folded stroller, an umbrella for a rainy day, groceries, and a purse on a bus. So you need better buses, right? But you need more frequency, not more speedy buses for traffic safety. And you definitely need parking spaces, residential parking spaces for the residents, because I cannot go on a bike on a hilly city like Washington to a doctor's appointment, or to do grocery shopping, or to take my daughter to activities, after school activities. It's not family friendly at all. And I do not use my car to go to work downtown. I walk to my office downtown, but I do need a parking space. And removing 100 parking spaces is breaking the social contract in the neighborhood.
Thank you for those thoughts. Really do appreciate it. And, I can't speak for everyone, but I know buses and the items that you mentioned are definitely things that this commission works on to make sure that the safety mechanisms are in place. I think there's another hand up, right?
We have Eleanor.
Welcome, Eleanor. You're up.
Yes, thank you. I just want to echo what Beatrice was saying. I have lived in this neighborhood since 1982, and I actually never had a car till about 15, 20 years ago, I guess, when I took a job in Pennsylvania and there was no public, and I had to go up there 3 days a week and stay up there. But I don't see for a lot of the areas where it is helping anything. And I'm thinking especially below, I guess, Mintwood to Connecticut, I have seen since they've taken away some of the parking spaces, more problems, like the blocking of alleys, because there were no, there used to be certain areas that you could pull over a little bit to let it, we have a couple of disabled people in our building, and I've seen them have to block that public alley to the school because of some of the changes in the street. And I'm glad about the bikes that have been put in, but we've already lost a lot of spaces. So I think that we've already done our share, and we probably could afford to do a little more. But it seems really draconian how much is being asked for a region that doesn't have that issue, the kind of bus delays and whatnot. And when I'm here in the city continuously, just like Beatrice, I walk everywhere. I rarely take my, the car, and people just don't come see me anymore because they cannot get parking at all. And they are not in areas where they can take public. I have people that just won't come, from different parts of Maryland. So I would like this to be reconsidered. as I don't think we've gotten to the Adams School, but I also have a couple of questions about that, especially would like to have a meeting at some point about construction plans. I heard at the last that things might start in fall. And I think that this is going to be a real, of course, it's going to be an inconvenience, but I think we need to think of certain things that we're doing, and we need to have the residents better prepared. And I think certain aspects of the plans perhaps should be reconsidered. Thank you very much.
Thank you again for those comments. Is there anyone else online? Sorry, I don't have the list available in front of me.
Lauren from Councilmember Nadeau's office.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Lauren.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. Definitely plan to join next time. I wanted to follow up. Thanks for all the great budget updates already. It actually, I think, ended up being a better year than we initially thought at the outset. The budget was voted on and approved by the council last week, and there are some really good things to come out of that. I do want to talk about the performance parking zone that was referenced already. That is $250,000 to implement a parking zone program in U Street. So it's the implementation. And currently we're writing a legislation that will direct where those funds go to. The goal is to have that revenue go to a dedicated fund for public safety, business, and nightlife management initiatives in that area. So that'll be a net benefit for that area and kind of all the surrounding neighborhoods. And so we're really excited about that. There's $43 million going to emergency rental assistance, which was all but eliminated in the original proposed budget. So that's all good things. Want to also identify, because this has been a really hot topic recently and is a critical need in our city, but just continued enforcement of traffic safety and supporting road safety in our area. And so the council member was able to restore over 50 positions in the Department of Public Works that will support waste disposal, graffiti removal, enhanced leaf pickup, and of course, better booting and towing operations, which is, I think, as we've all, if we're paying attention to the news, understand it's a critical piece of improving our traffic safety in our roadways in the area. Some recent legislation, and I think this may be of interest, particularly given the discussion around the proposed, the bus priority along Columbia Road, is that the council member reintroduced legislation that was introduced last year called the Prioritizing People and Planning Amendment Act of 2023. It would change the status quo basically of how our roads are designed. And so DDOT would be directed to develop a series of alternative measures, such as measuring total number of people a street can move, or the potential of a project to increase or decrease vehicle miles traveled, considering also our sustainability goals as a city. And it would really eliminate the outdated, quote unquote, level of service standard that has guided road design decisions in recent decades. So this is something that puts pedestrians more towards the focus of how road design decisions are made, which is really important because a large percentage of our city does not drive and does take public transportation and does walk on the sidewalks, even if you have a car. Being a pedestrian is something that we all value, I think, very greatly, and is why we kind of live in this urban environment. So that'll be really important. Another piece of legislation that was recently introduced is the District of Columbia Public Schools Procurement Authority Amendment Act of 2023. If you've been paying attention to the news, there has been some kind of many contracts over $1 million approved by the procurement office for DCPS, which should have gone before council for approval and did not. So this amendment act would move that procurement authority away from DCPS and put it in the Office of Contracting and Procurement, for the district as a whole. And that is something that is very important as we consider how tight our budget is, the need to make important and smart decisions with the resources that we do have, and ensure that the resources dedicated to public schools are going to where the need is greatest and having that level of oversight. So that is was recently introduced. And I think that is about it for updates. Happy to take any questions.
That's great. Thank you so much for all that. Any questions from commissioners? Okay. Anyone else online? Put their hand up. Okay. Anyone in person that wants to have a shot? You've made it this far. Welcome. So I'll ask this over here. We'll pass this just on cell phone. Go ahead. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stacia Cardell, and I am a DC resident for more than 25 years, and I'm a mother of 3 children at Oyster Adams Bilingual School. I'm also a parent representative on the school improvement team. Thank you to each of you ANC commissioners for your tireless efforts on behalf of the residents of this district. For more than 50 years, Oyster Adams Bilingual School has served as a model for dual language education in the district. We are an inclusive community of learners dedicated to academic excellence and creativity. We develop responsible leaders who are bilingual and biliterate in Spanish and in English. We have many parents and students joining us online tonight, so thank you all. Oyster Adams is diverse, with more than 67% of students self-identifying as Hispanic or Latin American origin, African American, Asian American, or 2 or more races. Our diversity is our strength. As you are aware, DCPS is modernizing the Adams campus of the Oyster Adams Bilingual School, located at 2020 19th Street, Northwest. Our community welcomes this modernization, and our revitalized campus will serve generations of OA Tigers long into the future. However, some in our community have deep concerns with the current design options that construct over the existing soccer field and track. Tonight, we ask for the ANC to adopt the resolution to encourage DCPS to present new concept design options. Tonight's resolution is very similar to the resolution passed by 3C ANC on May 22nd, 2023, supporting DCPS to offer new design solutions. The current renovation plan put forward by DCPS to this ANC will reduce the children's horizontal play space 42% from its current size. Some parents are concerned that the current design does not provide adequate space for the children, and other designs must be considered. Adequate outdoor space is critically important for our children's health and wellness. This is true particularly as our students are still dealing with learning loss from the school closures during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are concerned that the auditorium constructed in 1928 is oversized. It totals more than 5,585 square feet. This is 139% larger than is required. And the auditorium is nearly twice as large as the planned outdoor space. We want options that preserve the current size of the outdoor areas to ensure we have enough outdoor play space for students, including the soccer field and, importantly, the track. We are extremely concerned that any construction over the existing outdoor areas will negatively impact students during recess, outdoor learning, and after-school activities. Your vote tonight to adopt this resolution is critical, and our advocacy will continue beyond tonight's vote as well. We have issued a call to action to the Oyster Adams parents, and there have been more than 50 emails generated today alone that have been sent to the mayor, the chancellor, and the head of DGS. And we are working closely with council members Nadeau and Fruman. They were scheduled to visit the Adams campus on Friday, but unfortunately, DCPS Chief of Staff's office objected to Friday's visit. We hope that this site visit is rescheduled with all haste. We want options that preserve the current size of the outdoor areas to ensure we have enough outdoor play space for students. And we believe that the new campus should have adequate play space and parking. That parking is necessary to recruit and retain our valued teaching staff. We believe that any design can and should meet both goals. The Oyster Adams bilingual school community asks for your support tonight to adopt the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was my fault. I should have come at this time. I'll let that one go just because I don't want to interrupt you. When there's our agenda items, we'll make the more poignant. That I should have been clear. Just general comments right now, and then when we get to specific agenda items, that's the proper time. Just to make sure that's clear. Anyone else here tonight like to make any community announcements? Please raise your hand. Here, I'll come to you.
Thank you. I'm Peter Crawford. I'm president of the Oakland Condominium Association at 2006 Columbia Road. We actually back up on the Oyster Adams School, and we'll have some comments on that later. But I did want to just chime in on what Professor Shevlin said in her remarks about the bus priority zone, which it seems like the major congestion issue with the bus transit on Columbia Road is in the area from 16th Street until 20th Street, not from 20th Street to Columbia Road, where they propose to take out about 20 parking spaces. If you sit there in the morning on Columbia Road in that block, buses go sailing by. In fact, if you're trying to cross the street with your dog, you better watch out because you just might get run over. So it's not impeded there, and yet that's where they seem to want to have one of the biggest impacts. I think it's an ill-conceived notion in that location.
All right. Anyone else here? Here. You like MC?
I'm Monica Heppel. I'm the board chair at the Wyoming condominium, which is right next door. And I agree with that assessment of the issue with the buses. They go fast down there. They're not congested in the least. And parking, we have lost, as Beatrice indicated, a number of parking spaces in that area. And it would be very difficult to lose more.
Anyone else that's here tonight? All right, we have one more. And thank you for your help with the technical stuff.
Just short and sweet, but definitely support Stacey's summary on the school. A lot of us are both neighbors and have kids at the school and totally recognize we need to be good partners and hoping that we can find ways to all work together and still give the kids proper space. Right now, a lot of the kids, there's two classrooms that share the same, there are two teachers and classes that share the same classroom from what we've been told. And as you can imagine, that's quite disruptive for kids in 4th through 8th grade. So yeah, looking forward to getting a good school and working between the community. And thank you so much for all the hard work that you're doing to work with the community.
Thank you again. All right, last chance. Anyone else in this room? All right, we'll move on. So we have our rest of our scheduled agenda items. I would like, before we get to those, to move to add an agenda item. This came late because, so 2 months ago, we did vote in favor of applying for funds that are available to ANCs like ours to do technical assistance. So our website, as we discussed, could probably be updated, and there's a lot of back-end issues as well. Also, the person who maintained the website no longer does that. She retired from that position. And basically, the back-end stuff is very old, and it's hard to teach people like me or someone that would be more permanent to use it. And it would be advantageous to have that kind of seamless. So the process involves getting a quote. The quotes I didn't get until yesterday, and they would need more than the allotment that we could get from that funds would allow. So I'd like to discuss tonight the possibility of if there's any budget wiggle room that we could vote on opening up some more to have that update. We can go into details on the specifics later if it gets on the agenda. Do I have a second to consider adding this to tonight's agenda? All right. Any other questions, comments just about what the kind of merits of this item would be? we can discuss the specifics if it's a good idea or not later. Okay, so I'll just, let's bring it to a vote to add this to tonight's agenda. All those in favor of the addition, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Good. So we have a new agenda item. So let's move on. The consent agenda, this is 2 months. Last month, we, for multiple reasons that I kind of alluded to, did not get to those minutes, but we have 2 minutes on the, I guess the agenda's not up anymore, on the agenda, it's consent agenda this year, or this month. If anyone has an objection to the consent agenda, just takes one person, we can discuss that item. Are there any? Okay, so all those in favor, I'll move to vote and support pass the consent agenda. So I get a second. Commissioner Falskini seconded. We have a community comment, go ahead. Oh yeah, that's my fault. I didn't have a way to. Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. Oh, it's just the minutes from the last two. They've been distributed. This is just the minutes. They've been distributed amongst the commissioners. I just didn't get the hyperlink to work. That's all. If there was more substantive issues, I definitely would be in favor of discussing that further. But yeah, okay. So the most items on the floor. All those in favor of passing the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? I'm not getting the online ones. Anyone online opposed? All right, thank you, Dick. All right. And any abstentions? Passes 8-0. So now we'll move to the regular agenda. So there's nothing from the ABC committee this month. From the PZT, I think it is the opposite situation. We have several things. So we'll start. There's a letter of support regarding the Champlain Street substation project. So who wants to lead this one? Go ahead.
Champlain substation upgrade, which is basically an upgrade of their equipment and infrastructure so they can better serve the community, and also aesthetic improvements to the building itself. Just basically a refresh and added green space and plantings while maintaining the same historical character of the building. And I think possibly Mr. Culpepper was going to join to kind of give more detail about that. If he's not on, then okay. Okay. Yes, if you can add on, that'd be great, because that is kind of my extent of understanding.
Thank you so very much. This is Travoris Culpepper here from PEPCO. Apologize for not being able to meet in person. I would like to have been there with you, but I had a conflict. But yes, wanted to just share information about the Champlain substation. As many of you all know, we do plan to upgrade the substation and increase the capacity of the substation. And we hope to start construction in 2025. We do plan to maintain some historical aspects of the building. And we had gone to the we had gone to the PZT committee to share our conceptual designs of the substation and sought a letter of support. I did have the actual conceptual design available to view, if that's okay, or didn't know if that was okay to do. I'm sorry, I missed that.
You can share it, Travoris.
Oh, okay. Let me just share my screen right now. And please let me know if you can see my screen. Okay, as many of you all know, this is the current existing substation at this, and we've maintained it very well over the course of its useful life, but we hope to modernize it. And once we modernize the substation, this is essentially what it would look like. A lot of the outside equipment that you see that is currently there will be enclosed. We will have green wall space on the substation itself as well. Currently, what you're looking at is that the Champlain Street side of the substation, and we are actually going to the Historic Preservation Review Board. We've submitted our conceptual designs to them for their review. So they have seen this, and there's actually a meeting later this month where we'll be actually following up with them regarding our design as well. And so we will maintain much of the existing structure on the Champlain Street side and then expanding the building. And so what you see here is an aerial view of the substation where we will actually, as you can see, enclose a lot of the existing equipment. And then we'll actually make updates to the Old Morgan School side of the building as well. We have agreed to, as many of you all know, erect a mural for a new mural for the substation. The one that is there is will no longer be there once construction starts, but we will be working with the community to look at having additional murals with a theme that we hope to collaborate with you and the community on, as well as a muralist to actually paint the murals on the substation as well. So thank you all very much. I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Just repeat that. So
Where will the new mural be on the facility?
The new mural, and I'm sorry, let me just share my screen again. The new mural will be on the same side, but as you can see, if you guys can see my screen, we will actually break the Old Morgan School side and allow for at least 2 to 3 panels to be available for murals. So instead of one big mural, there is space for several murals to be on the substation, but it will be located on the exact same side. And again, we would like to work with you on the theme as well as selection of the muralist to perform that work. And this will take place once the substation is complete with construction, of course.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Stevens, do you have any other comments? Make sure. All right, anyone from the community, oh, well, other commissioners, do you have any questions, comments on this item? Anyone from the, yeah, good. Sorry, we're gonna have to do this again.
Just wondering if there's been any work towards using any below, above, around the substation for the community, because I know it kind of needs to be there, but I'm wondering if there's any benefit we can get within our ANC around it. But with that being said, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, anyone want to handle that question? All right. Any other questions, comments here? Anyone online have their hand up? Go ahead.
At the last meeting, we made mention of periodic cleanup of the place around it. Did you did you approach that?
Yes, we did, and thank you very much for that. We actually did clean up the property last week around the area, and we are working to try and come up with a schedule. We've advanced that request to the manager of substation and maintenance, and they're currently identifying if there's an opportunity to have a routine cleanup, but we have cleaned up the property.
All right, thanks so much. Did anyone online ask a question? Go ahead, Commissioner.
To address the community space question there, I believe there is more community gathering space in terms of having open green space. I can't remember from the slide deck if there were seating elements or what have you. So maybe Trevorris can answer the question. So Trevorris, the question was, is there any kind of increased community type space? You know, I know you're adding the open open courtyard, green space type of thing. Is there any kind of seating areas like outdoor furniture or anything like that that would be available?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question. Unfortunately, no, because of the type of facility that it is, we do not allow for individuals to gather at the substation, or even promote having, um, seating or things like that. So that is for security reasons, but we do want to work with the community on, again, the mural and having you come up with the theme. One of the things that we are going to look forward to engaging with you on is the establishment of a community advisory group, and wanted to make sure to seek the recommendation of the ANC as well as community members about members of that body that we hope to establish, just to give us guidance on, the construction, and also disseminating information to the community. So we definitely look forward to partnering with you and keeping you updated every step of the way once construction starts. But in terms of actually having seating and things like that, we actually do not encourage that type of activity simply because of this type of equipment and the facility and how critical it is to serve power to the neighborhood.
Got it. That makes sense.
Any other questions, comments? Is there anyone online that has their hand up? All right, we have one online. Welcome, Beatrice.
Sorry, my comment is on the Oyster School, so I don't think we have gotten there.
Hi, so could you repeat that?
My comment is on the Oyster School.
Thank you. That's, I think, a couple items. That's the next item. So once we get through this one, we'll address that, and you're welcome to speak then. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. So with that, this came through unanimously from committee. Is that correct? Yeah. I'm gonna move. So it doesn't need a second. I'm gonna move that we vote on it to support this letter. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Doesn't need one. It comes from committee. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. I believe 8-0. Next on the agenda, considering a resolution. I'm just going to announce it. Consider resolution regarding the Adams Middle School renovation project and the amended proposed resolution draft. I'm going to hand it over to Commissioner Michael Horowitz. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone, and thanks for your patience getting to this item, and thanks everyone for bearing with the heat and the technical issues. Yeah, as Stacia introduced earlier, we are very excited for this renovation in general. I think it's going to really improve the school. A lot of great features are coming in, and the school really needs a refresh. But the process in getting to the design has frankly not been transparent and not been responsive to the concerns of parents and faculty and neighbors. And we would like to change course on that and reopen that process because some of the trade-offs that have been made are really going to have a huge impact on the community. And we need to have a chance to weigh in on that. Now, I think there may be somebody from DCPS on line. Is Tanya on? Great. Can you elevate? Because I just. Sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong. There's some amendments to be discussed, so maybe it's just helpful to have an actual motion on the floor, just so we can have that seamless. So I'll move to consider this item. Can I get a second for discussion?
Hello?
We have several. Okay, thanks.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah. First, Tanya, welcome. I just hoping you can provide an update on the current status of DCPS's plan. You know, what decisions has I guess what is DCPS doing right now, and what's your timeline for this project currently?
First, let me introduce myself and make a couple of clarifying points. My name is Tanya Shand. I'm the DCPS project manager / SIT coordinator for the Adams modernization. The process that we have followed for engagement with the community, the Adams community, is the same as we do across the city. We have not changed any of the engagement practices. We have presented, taken back feedback from the community and tried to adjust and upgrade our presentations and designs as we get feedback as much as we can. We presented to the ANC last week a full presentation of where the design is. We, DCPS and DGS, have determined that the stacks, which is what was presented at the ANC the last time, is what we're moving forward with, and that has not changed. We are here this evening we understood that there was a resolution, and we understood that you would be taking it up this evening. So we are here to hear what the resolution is and to record what the vote is going to be out of the ANC.
I think some folks couldn't hear in the room, and what I heard from Tanya is that the process has been the same as for other school renovations. They presented to the ANC committee meeting on the 17th of May. And they're here to hear what the resolution comes out of the committee, comes out of the commission. So we have an amendment on the floor to the version of the resolution that came out of the committee. And one reason that the amendment makes so many changes is that we did not see the new design for the school until that meeting. So we had no way to prepare a resolution that was responsive to those designs. So I've worked with a number of parents and community members to draft this, and I appreciate their support. Our goal in this resolution is not to prescribe one design. We are not, at least I am not, an architect. I am not an expert in school design, but my community members, parents have said that the current designs that eliminate 42% of the outdoor space at the school really would do great damage to the school community. And so we're calling on DCPS to reopen the design plan and to find ways to preserve outdoor space so that the students at the school and the community can use that space, especially as enrollment at the school is projected to increase. The resolution calls on DCPS to have a more transparent approach to the design process and to respond to feedback. To this point, my perspective is that DCPS has presented and heard feedback, but has not responded to most of it, especially not in writing. And we're getting a lot of questions.
Commissioner.
The resolution also talks about the challenges of the growing school and consulting neighbors. I've heard recently a lot of concerns about construction and about parking. Traffic on 19th is a nightmare when a school gets in and leaves. That's something that we certainly want to address. It's not the primary purpose of this resolution. The resolution identifies some ideas that community members have raised to me that DCPS could consider when it reopens the design. Not prescribing any of them. Again, we are not experts. They have contracted with Studio MB, an architecture firm, but identifying these for consideration.
Commissioner?
And, you know, one design idea, as Stacia said, is to, if an addition is to be built to the school that would house a gym, to make that 2 stories, to have a gym and an auditorium cafeteria in a new addition, and to reclaim the current auditorium as outdoor recreation space. That's one possible idea. We're not endorsing that idea, but we'd like to see an option that includes that as a way to get to more outdoor recreation space for the students.
Commissioner?
So,
Commissioner?
and lastly, you know, if historic preservation is a concern, and it is, you know, we want to ensure that the needs of the students in the community are the top priority. So those are all the things that the resolution does. I sent it around to the community about a week ago. I sent it around to the commissioners, some of whom made some edits, and I hope had a chance to review. I want to open up to questions from the commissioners.
Commissioner? Okay.
Just one quick point, again, kind of Robert's Rules of Order type stuff. Just because the original, I made the motion to have something on the floor, because the original amendment was the one from the committee, I'll move to consider the amended version, and that can be the one that we discuss. Can I get a second? All right. All those in favor of amending the resolution on the floor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so now we're talking about a slightly more extensive, but still very thorough amended resolution. Commissioners, here.
Can I ask where we are if there was an approval, if there was a support from this commission, where for this tonight, where would we be in a construction schedule? Would we be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the line?
Hello?
Anybody? Tanya?
Can you hear me? I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry. I also wanted to comment just for a point of clarification on what Commissioner Horowitz said, but what is your question? I can answer your question if I.
Where are we on a timeline? Are we looking at 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the line for construction?
No, we are not. We are looking at construction starting in the next several months, and we will have a community meeting that focuses on logistics, which will talk about when construction begins and what it might mean for the neighbors.
Thank you.
I have drafted a flyer for that already. I'm sorry. I have drafted a flyer for that already, and we'll be sending to the ANC to distribute to their network of neighbors. But in clarifying on what Commissioner Horowitz said, it doesn't usually.
To be clear, it's Commissioner Michelson Horowitz.
I'm sorry, Michelson Horowitz. Sorry about that. The process includes when we present a design, we have another session for feedback where the community, the SIT, can provide feedback on the design. What you all saw at the last ANC, it just so happened that we had just presented to the community. And what you saw was our attempt to address what the community wanted, the Adams community wanted at that time, which was a soccer field. That was not included initially. And when we presented it to you, we did include it. So I just want to be clear that what was presented the last time was our attempt. And we did make improvements to address the SIT's concerns, the Adams SIT's concerns at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate so much the work that you put into this, Commissioner. Appreciate so much the feedback from the families and the community. I serve on the other side of 18th Street, and the unfortunate history of Adams Morgan is that it was named for the desegregation of our neighborhood. The west side of 18th was traditionally whiter and more affluent. The east side of 18th Street, where I serve, was traditionally blacker, browner, Spanish speaking and less affluent. The truth is that the Adams School does not serve our entire community. It does not serve the Adams Morgan neighborhood. It serves the Adams neighborhood. It doesn't serve our traditionally Black and brown communities on the east side of 18th. It needs to be expanded so that it can serve our entire neighborhood. Right now, the kids that go to Marie Reed Elementary School, who are also mostly Spanish speaking, are sent to other parts of our city to go to middle school instead of the middle school that is in our own neighborhood. That is a travesty. It is gross. It is a continuation of systemic inequality that dates back to segregation in the early years of our city. And that needs to end. And the only way that's going to end is if this school is increased in size and capacity, that it can serve all of the kids in our neighborhood and not just the kids on one side of 18th. So I'm glad that this school design is going to increase capacity for our school. I hope that as we rewrite the boundaries of our school coming out of this, that it comes to serve our entire community in Adams Morgan, and that the history of Adams Morgan, of the desegregation of our neighborhood, truly lives up to that all the way through middle school at least. Because right now it ends at elementary school. And then after elementary school, it's right back to segregation again. So I hope that that changes in the future. Those are my only comments. Otherwise, I totally support this plan as written.
Resolution. You said the plan.
Sorry, the resolution.
Okay. Didn't want to correct you, but I knew it.
Can you come here? We're going to get through commissioners and then go just.
The resolution as written? I do. I support it as.
Yeah, I corrected.
Sorry, the resolution. I support the resolution as written. Yeah, I second Commissioner. Excuse me. This is my first time saying all your lines. Yeah, I've been in the neighborhood for 50 years, and I was part of I was with the Adams Morgan organization that sponsored the fight over replacing the old Morgan School, and they're replacing it with the President Marie Reed. And he's quite right that what we were addressing is the gross racism that was a part and parcel of Washington, D.C. Remember, it's south of the Mason-Dixon line. So it should not be a surprise to learn that in Washington, D.C., there was this vicious racism that extended to the school system. And we should be aware of every instance where we have an opportunity to uproot that. And I think it's much to our benefit to support, as he mentioned, making sure that in his school, as well as in other instances that we can, to make the institutions available to everybody who lives in this neighborhood.
Thank you both. Other commissioners, any other comments, questions on this item?
As DCPS's current plan, which increases the population of the school by, I think was 120, am I correct? That's right. Okay, but all right, but it does increase it. My question is that would that increase at all alleviate the issues that Commissioner Falcini is referring to?
Right, it would.
It would. Adding that the extra 126 would be better than nothing.
Yes.
But if there was a more elaborate renovation construction, would the demographic support adding 200 or 250? Do we DCPS rep Tanya, do we know the answer to that question?
No. I do not know the answer to that question. And as I
Well,
understand
isn't that a fundamental question we should know about the demographics in terms of how many children in the next 6 years are going to be eligible from both Marie Reed and elsewhere to go there? Isn't that a fundamental question to be answered?
Okay, let me clarify who we are. We are the facilities modernization team. The question that you're asking is a question for school planning. So our role here is that we design and build schools. And we look at the projection over the next few years, because obviously if we build a school and it opens, we don't want it to not be able to accommodate the students the minute it's open. So we forecast based on numbers that we are given from other parts of DCPS and try and build that into the modernization and renovation of the school. So you're talking to the designers and the builders here. That's what we try and do. And we design to a number that is given to us so that when the school opens, it still has room for more students.
Thank you for that. And someone can correct me if I'm mistaken, but it sounds like the kind of summary of that point is this is a present point of addressing the physical school and the potential capacity of how many students could be physically in it and legally allowed to be in there because of capacity limits. And there's another section of DCPS which would work with what actual people would be attending the school, not physical, but not the hypothetical, but the kind of the practical. Is that accurate? Okay. Yeah.
Tanya, this is Commissioner Michelson Horowitz. Just to clarify, what is your projection for the enrollment at the school? And based on the ed specs that you are constructing to, what is the theoretical capacity of the school based on those ed specs?
Okay, so the ed specs that you will see that you can find on the website are the ed specs that are for every middle school in the district. So we have a standard across the board that every project, every modernization, that's a middle school, has to be built to the same ed specs, so we have equity across the school. Now, in terms of the number here, I believe that we're building anyway, constructing for 550.
And current enrollment at the school is?
That would be something for the principal to confirm, but I think it's somewhere around 350 maybe. 342, something like that. But that can be confirmed with
your email to me. I could look it up in terms of the statistics. But it was you said that current enrollment is 373. Okay. And in your email, it said that your projected enrollment was 425. So that's a big difference. I'm hoping that you can clarify, what is the theoretical capacity based on the number of classrooms and square footage of the renovated school?
Oh, okay. So since I'm not looking at what I provided you, I suggest you go with what I sent you in the email that you asked me about. So I was just trying to get off the top of my head to answer the question, but you have the information there. So those are the numbers that you should go with, because that's what I researched when I responded to your email.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify, the resolution is primarily about reopening the design, not about the capacity, and it's about preserving the outdoor space at the school. Although I hear Commissioner Falsini and Commissioner Barnes and everyone about wanting to make the school an equitable service to the whole community. But I don't have any further questions, but anyone does.
Very helpful. Any other commissioner comments, questions? Anyone in attendance? We have at least one. All right. John, for the camera. Just hold it, yeah.
Okay. So I'm Dennis James. I'm president of Calorama Citizens Association. I'd like to respond to something that Jake said, and it's, oh, I'm sorry. Is that better? I mean, I don't know. So there was a time not too long ago, I think back around 2010, maybe a little bit earlier, before this became part of the Oyster complex, that children who lived right across the street from the school were not in boundary, you know, and so we got involved and went over to meetings at Oyster on Calvert Street and, you know, worked with whoever was in charge at the time. It's been a while, but we at least got that boundary changed so that an area around the school, I think it's most of Western Adams Morgan, but I haven't looked at that for a while. So, you know, some of the history is, yeah, well, it improved a little bit, but I hear what you're saying. And one other thing I know about the Oyster program is that you can't really just jump into it like a fourth grade, right? You need to be there in the beginning. Is this wrong, parents?
Yes,
Okay.
you have to be able to speak in Spanish as long
Okay.
as you're native Spanish.
So, right. Anyway, so it's not just quite as simple as, hey, bring those kids over. But, you know, I just think it's worth pointing out that there has been attempts to move forward, and dealing with DCPS's boundaries is not always the easiest thing. So anyway, thanks for the opportunity to just say a few words. Thank you.
Thanks for the comments. Anyone else here have any comments, questions? Okay.
So again, Peter Crawford, president of the Oakland Condominium Association. I think the microphone is there. Yeah, our major concerns are the design, and there's some historical aspects here that the ANC needs to be aware of as well. Dennis James might actually remember. I think he may have worked with Ann Hargrove with us on this when they first put in the stadium at the school. There was a question about where it should be, and it was placed where it is for a specific reason, to avoid the noise impacts on the neighbors, to minimize the impact of the lighting on the neighbors. The trade-off that we gave for that at that time was that that's where the trash collection used to be. So they moved the trash collection to the end of the alley, which is, I'm not sure we got a good deal out of that in retrospect. And we can talk about rats again later. But the big issue is by putting that stadium where it is right dead smack in the back of the Oakland. The noise impact is going to be huge. It's dead smack next to the Skylar Arms. The noise impact on them is going to be huge. And then it forces the parking down to the other end of the alley. We already have issues with the alley and parking at night. That's open and unsecured the way it's designed. Parties and the drugs and the screaming in the middle of the night that wake up neighbors every single Friday, every single Saturday, and half the nights during the week is going to continue and get worse. So there are community impacts from this design that I don't think have been even remotely considered. The other thing is that you take that in combination with the bus priority zone on the other end of the street, you're going to create more safety issues for kids coming to that school. And it puts us in what actually Commissioner Nato called the sacrifice zone, which I took great umbrage at. She said, well, you just have to sacrifice for the greater good. We're willing to sacrifice for the greater good, but don't ask us to give up everything. Don't ask us to give up our property values. You can't sell if you don't have any parking in the neighborhood. You can't sell if somebody stands in a condominium to consider buying it and they can't hear themselves think. So I ask you to take all of that into consideration and more when you reconsider this design. Thanks.
I appreciate those comments. Anyone else that's here? Comments, questions? Thanks.
Like this? Hi. I'm Monica DeHunbos. I'm an Oyster parent, and I just wanted to say that I'm actually going to be later proposing an art project which talks about this whole concept of racial discrimination in education. It's going to be called Swimming. If you don't stick around, I just want to mention that. It's going to be at the Marie Reed Plaza, and it's true that my kids used to go to Marie Reed to swim, but there was such a separation between the two schools, and it's sort of an interesting point that Jake brought up. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. All right. Any last comments from commissioners? Oh, we have one more. Yeah. We're going to have a summary. There's the point that was discussed earlier.
I really don't. No, I hate to waste anybody's time. But I think just as a general matter, I want to say thank you to the commissioners for all of your work. And obviously, we appreciate your consideration of tonight's resolution. There are some parents who are very concerned about these design options, particularly because it reduces the horizontal outdoor play space for our children by 42% while increasing enrollment. I think there's a lot of great places that we can partner, especially as DCPS considers redesigning boundaries, which I know is always a matter of great contention whenever it comes up. So I think that would be something that we should absolutely continue to stay in touch on. And we would ask for your support in the vote to adopt this resolution tonight. And I think for more information about particular concerns, there is a website that's been started to try to capture information into one place that is accessible, and that's Friends of Oyster Adams, all one word, .com. And so that has a lot of the materials that have been provided to us by DCPS throughout the process. And so you can see for yourself information around the impacts to the outdoor space, which again takes the current space from over 5,000 feet to just 3,150 feet for the students, while increasing enrollment to over 480, as Ms. Shand said, but as potentially as up to 550 as well. And so we thank you for your support on this. So thanks.
This is Tanya.
I checked. There's like 5 people online that have their hands up, so I guess we'll get to them now. Who's first? I should have remembered this.
Can I?
They'll be promoted in order. All right, Catherine, welcome.
Good
And please do your best to be succinct, please. If it's going too long, I will kindly interrupt. Thank you.
Sure.
To everyone.
Catherine Dupre. I live in a neighborhood. My son attends 5th grade at Oyster Adams. I'm also a member of the OCC, the Oyster Adams Community Council, which is our parents' PTA. Thank you to the commissioners for taking on our request. Thank you to Stacia for so eloquently mentioning it. When I hear DCPS talk about our soccer field, a stadium, I invite everyone to go in person to look at what those look like. The current soccer field is probably maybe half at best a real soccer field. The basketball court is maybe a quarter of a real basketball court. The outdoor space currently provided to children is shameful right now. It looks like a postage stamp. Reducing it by 42%, I think will look like a prison courtyard where the children are allowed to silently walk. And as children are being taught by children, quiet bodies will be an all day long. And I can't imagine one being healthy in those conditions without having outdoor space where you can move your body. And as you know, teenagers have a lot of energy to dispense and also needed to be healthy. We have an issue with obesity in this country. I can't think that children sitting all day long will be a great way to learn or be healthy. Also, thank you to the commissioners for mentioning racial diversity and background. I hope that they will be heard by DCPS too. I would love to see more brown and Black bilingual children at Oyster. It would be lovely to address that issue. Thank you so much for your help. And I hope this reopening the design of the Adams School will be the first step to that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next.
Oh, hi. Am I unmuted? I'm unmuted. Yes, this is Brian Petruska. I have a 6th grader at Adams. And I was surprised when outdoor space became the big issue because the current outdoor space at the school is really small. And the rearrangement in the design, I thought actually was very thoughtful in terms of making better use of that, moving parking from the current large area that they have, moving it over to the corner. And many other aspects of the design I think are great. I just wanted to flag the concern that's already been raised, which is that that some of this may be about increasing the school student body. And obviously, if you eliminate the very large auditorium, which is not only going to be for the auditorium and cafeteria, but also has a lot of learning space in it, it's going to make it more difficult to have more students in the building, and sacrificing that for.
Maybe two more. Welcome back, Beatrice.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Again.
Thank you. I'm the head of a Spanish-speaking household in Calorama, and I want to point that the school is a human space for development. It's not a can of sardines. Increasing the number of students from 300 or 50 or 370 to 450 or 500 will lower the quality of the school, and it will go against the benefiting racial equality for the schools that are in Oyster. The quality of education depends not just on the curriculum, but also on the teacher body, on the physical and the outdoor space, because that's where the kids interact undirected in an undirected space, where they sync their bilingual, cultural, and language skills, and where they develop relationships. So the current removal of outdoor space is counter to any pedagogical advice for a quality education. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Next up is Eleanor.
Hi again. As I said, I personally am from the Oakland as well, but I'm more concerned about some of the design issues, and I just listened to Brian and I understood what he meant by being thoughtful about the placement of the parking now at the end. But I'm going to speak about that issue because it's a concern of mine for two reasons. I look over the back, and there's such bottlenecks all the time of cars, one after the other, either coming or going, having to back up to get out or back up into Columbia because somebody's coming down and there's no way to maneuver. So you have lines of cars, and this can happen all throughout the day, but especially between 8 and 10, maybe, or 7 and 10, and then between 3 and 5. And I think having the cars going in and out further down creates more of a logistical nightmare from just observing this. Then after the cars have left and it's night, I think that secluded area back there is an empty parking lot, becomes more dangerous because of some of the, what can go on there late at night. And I think it's more secluded and out of the way. I'd be interested in hearing other perspectives, but that is a key, for example, concern of mine about moving the design around, because now we have gone from like a little U to almost a large L, where people have to back out, and you're also involving more people from the parking spaces of the Calorama. And I also very much wonder, I agree that you need this parking to attract better teachers and the bilingual teachers you want to come to this school. But this parking, there are only 22, as somebody said, there are only 22 little spaces. And that parking lot currently is packed. Like, you can't really get into the parking lot to hardly turn around when there is a backup. So thank you. That is like maybe a key concern about the design that I have. And I was also surprised that I had only attended the meeting last week, but to hear that the outdoor space had shrunk. And I agree about the importance of both younger children and tweens having outdoor space and the importance of that. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. One more person, is that right? Two more people. All right, Bridget. Yep. Bridget, are you there? Let's move to the next person. Okay. Welcome. And thanks everyone again for being succinct with your points. Really do appreciate it.
Hi, this is Jen. Can you hear me? This is Jen. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Jen Jessup. I am the chair of the OCC, the Parent Teacher Association here at Oyster Adams. And I wanted to say that I support the resolution being discussed. I put this in the chat, but I'm saying it here for the record. The design needs to go beyond the next few years, so that we are not stuck again in a few years again without enough space to include outdoor space. Outdoor space means both play space for the kids and parking for the teachers. DC provided the school with 3 options. The community had feedback because we had never imagined that the soccer field and the track would be eliminated in any of the design options. So we have since been provided with the one option that was talked about at the last sub-meeting of the ANC. The feedback you hear tonight and the resolution under consideration opens the door for additional improvements on the current design. We certainly appreciate the community's efforts for a more equitable future that includes options for all students. We know the design team in DC has been working really hard on this. As folks have already said tonight, it's like a Jenga puzzle trying to put all of these pieces in this tiny little footprint. But we know that the current design option that we've had a chance to review now, and we know that we can do better. So thank you so much for supporting this resolution.
Thank you. I want to try Bridget again. Sharon, still up? Okay, let's do it. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Let's give it a shot. Welcome back, Bridget. Yeah, we'll just have Commissioner Fowles, can you read your comments? I think.
Cool. So the comment from Bridget is that the limited outdoor space at Adams is tiny, and taking that away while packing in more kids will not benefit any kids in the neighborhood. Kids 4th grade to 8th grade need outdoor play space, especially when this community continues to face large COVID outbreaks, etc. Outdoor space is key for our most vulnerable students and helps all kids avoid these constant reinfections. Use the massive lot at 17th and U and V for an appropriate size lot for a middle school for all our kids.
You have a comment?
I'm a little taken back by DCPS being satisfied with increasing the population there by either 50 or 125. I also think they're naive when we're looking at 1,000 units in the Universal building. Is that what it was? 500 units in the Universal building. And we have no idea how many units are going to be built at the old Marriott Wardman. I can very easily imagine in 5 years, there will be no soccer field because there will be trailers on it to accommodate the increase in population. This idea, I thought that the council years ago made creating middle schools a priority, but clearly they're naive. No one's talking from DCPS clearly to planning in terms of what's going to be built. This is not going to work. It won't work in 5 years. It may work for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years, but in 5 years, it's going to be overcrowded again. So I would almost say, I'm not going to suggest this because I wasn't with me, but I would almost say, tell DCPS to go back and come up with a plan that reflects the future of these boundaries. Because if you don't, you're going to have trailers on the soccer field.
Thank you. I think we have, is everyone online for comment? Okay, we have one more and then we'll hopefully seal up this issue. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, Dennis James again. I'd like to speak to the resolution, a few of the points. It's an awful lot of jumble in that resolution. Is really touching way too many points. But if you, I'm in the Calorama Citizens Association, one of our prime purposes is historic preservation, and it has been awarded, I mean, we applied for 2 historic districts, Calorama Triangle and Washington Heights. The school's in the Washington Heights, and many of the elements, say, of the auditorium have been proven, well, DCPS has said they're worthy of, holding on to. Like there's a page where, like the floor, no, that's been replaced already, but the windows and, different moldings and so forth. Now, not here to say that's more important than a good education and a good experience at a school, but I do think that adds to your experience to have something of value historically. That's a point, but it's not a major point. If you took away the current auditorium, which currently serves as a cafeteria, to my understanding, and it's got basketball hoops and painting lines on the floor, so it's used for that activity. And I believe if the school assembles, it's probably the biggest place in the school, so if you don't have that, that's going to have to happen somewhere else. And where will that happen? There aren't places for it to happen in the school. And if you build this new exterior gym, that takes away one of the reasons, for that, one of the things that happens in the existing auditorium, but it's still plenty that happens there. And the plans also show that there's underneath it, there would be other classroom kind of activities going on. Now, I'm not an expert on what goes on in the school. I've learned a lot by looking at the plans in the last week or two, but that's just a voice from somebody who's lived here for 50 years.
Thank you. I have a couple of, we'll hear first in the back. Actually, you go first.
Yeah, just to Dennis's point, the school definitely needs an auditorium, a gym, and a cafeteria. Currently, that's all in one very large space, and I agree that needs to be broken out in 2 separate spaces so that there can be an assembly during a gym class for a different grade. But currently, the design calls for a single-story new gym and retaining the single-story auditorium cafeteria. And I believe that's a poor use of the small footprint. We need to build up to retain the outdoor space. So if we build a second story above the current auditorium, I'm not opposed to that, to keep the outside space, the rest of the outside space. If we build a new addition, I would like that to be 2 stories so that we can reclaim the current auditorium space as outdoor space. So it certainly want to have all of those purposes. We could also, for example, cover the parking space but having a surface level parking and a 1-story auditorium and a 1-story gym is a poor use, and it really takes away the outdoor space from the kids.
Hi again, Stacia Cardell. So to just clarify some pieces around the historic preservation, because historic preservation is incredibly important to me. It's my favorite thing about living in Washington. And so many key aspects of the school are going to be retained. And that includes the entire facade that is contributing structure to the Washington Heights Historic District, as well as the stairway entrances that everyone is familiar with. The 4 trees, which have been dedicated in honor of a deceased student, will remain. The colonnade that is the front entrance, that is also retained. The doors and its use of an entrance. The lobby, the historic lobby, is also retained under the current plan. The terrazzo floors are also retained under the plan. And then the width of the stairs and the hallways is also retained. So all of those aspects are still planning to be retained and be used to educate students around the historic nature of the building. I think although we are not prescribing a specific plan in the resolution that's being considered today, the demolition of the auditorium is a structure from 1928. It is 139% larger than the current education specifications allot for. And the things that have been identified as historic, to my understanding, what has been described to us are the stage and the way sort of that stage presentation looks, as well as the historic cornice work at the top. And so from our perspective, for some parents, I want to be very clear, right? I do not represent all parents, but for some parents, there is consideration that we have seen other DCPS school redesigns and modernizations include demolitions of historic auditoriums or other kinds of structures, and that includes Bancroft, Eaton, Duke Ellington, and that's just 3 in the last 10 years. There's even many more than that. There is a process by which it goes to the historic board, then to a mayor's agent. I think there are people in the room that know a lot more about this than I do, but I do just want to underscore that so many important parts of the historic nature of the building still remain intact and are not really under discussion. But I think what we are seeing in this room are 2 things. One is the community absolutely supports the renovation of this building and its expansion. And I do want to underscore, we really appreciate all of DCPS's efforts and DGS's efforts and the design team at Studio MB. We appreciate all of their work. That's the first thing, and that we welcome this renovation. And I think the second thing that we're hearing from the community tonight is that both from the some parent perspective and some student perspective and some administrations, but also neighbors as well too, that we are looking for different design options to be potentially considered and presented. And so I do think that that's a unifying theme that I'm hearing across the room and that I think is, to be considered in tonight's resolution as well. So thank you.
Okay, looks like we have one more hand up. Go ahead. I'm going to bring this to a vote. So.
Thank you. I'll make it super quick. I just wanted to support Mr. Michelson Horowitz's recommendation that we take advantage of the vertical space as well as the horizontal space. And in keeping with that, one idea, just to toss it out, that's been done at other educational institutions, which is to have a 2-story structure that could be an auditorium and a gymnasium and have a playing field on the roof. It can be done safely, it can be done economically, give you the green roof that you're really looking for, and kill several birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Not that I promote.
Thank you. So yeah, lots of good comments. I just want to say one thing, and then I'm going to bring this to a vote. There was a comment earlier just about historic preservation, how it can be positive for learning experience. That may be true. I know in the pedagogical research, the most important thing that is kind of being discussed in the last 10 years is access to green space. And in order to accommodate for that, we need to go up. We don't have enough space. So I think this is an approach to try to get the city to reconsider so that those things can be balanced. It's a tough balance. I appreciate all the comments. One last comment for Commissioner, really quick.
Yeah, I just want to say I've definitely heard and I agree with the concern about putting parking at the end of a narrow alley and causing a nightmare and putting a playing field adjacent to an apartment building. I recognize those are legitimate concerns, and I would like to see those changed when this is open for redesign. Yeah, thank you for raising those issues.
All right. Again, thanks everyone. I know this is an important issue for a lot of people, so I appreciate, and I know the people that worked with Commissioner here on the resolution put a lot of time and energy into this. Really do appreciate, and it's definitely something we all know. So, committee, it's already on the floor. I'm going to move to vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Please. Yeah, this is to vote on the motion on the floor, which is the resolution as amended, which is to say that we do not support the current proposal for the redesign, and we suggest, with a lot of caveats and details, that it should be reconsidered and involve more community input. All those in favor of this resolution, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Abstentions. The resolution passes. Thank you, everyone. That was a long one. All right. So next item on the agenda is.
Thank you all.
Next is considering a letter of support allowing for 3 zoning exceptions at 1832 Ontario Place. Little change of pace. Go ahead.
So this one is not as glamorous, but still very important to at least one homeowner. So the owner of 1832 Ontario Road would like zoning relief for 3 points. Basically, he would like to build onto the back of his home and then demo and replace the existing garage to be a bit larger and also 2 stories so that he can have a flex space at the top, an office, storage space, that type of thing. But in doing that, then he would increase the lot occupancy to 70% versus the 60%. And then also there would be only 18'2" between the main house and the garage versus the required 20 feet. And then the last point would be that the end of the garage that borders the alley would be 6 inches closer to the center line of the alley than is basically required. So those are the 3 points that he's asking for relief for. I think they're minor. So in the PZT committee, we voted unanimously to support that, to provide that letter of support for that relief.
All right, thank you. And to be proper, I'll move. This came out of committee, so I don't need a second. Move to consider support for this. Any other questions, comments from commissioners? Anyone in attendance have any questions or comments, online or otherwise? Thank you to those who stuck around personally or in person. All right, so let's raise it to a vote. All those in favor of supporting this resolution, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? We're moving along now. The next item on our agenda is considering a letter of support for the Adams Morgan Partnerships Business Improvement District regarding closing 18th Street to general vehicular traffic for events on July 29th, September 10th, October 14th, 2023. This came out of committee as well, perhaps. Okay, yeah, I'll just move to support this. It's on the floor. Any questions, comments from commissioners on this item? I think this is an easy one personally. Anyone from the committee want to comment on this? This is a project that, well, an ongoing project to try to find ways to have 18th Street be more pedestrian oriented, either temporarily or permanently, or at least regularly if it's temporary, for like a few days a year, but we're not there yet. It's still sporadic. So this is an attempt to at least have something. Anyone online have any hands up? All right, so I won't talk too much. Let's just put this to a vote. All those in favor of supporting this, please say aye. 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 Any abstentions? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Next item is consider a request to DDOT. Consider a letter, to DDOT requesting a traffic study of California streets northwest between Florida Avenue and 18th Street regarding feasibility of converting the stretch of road into a one-way street. Commissioner Mike Horowitz, please introduce it.
Sure. Since the committee meeting, we've learned that we don't need a letter of support from the ANC. This is now the process is that anyone can submit a request, and they're all considered equally. So I'm not going to move for a letter anymore, but I just want to let the commissioners know that I plan to, and I think Commissioner Falskini may also put in a request to examine the traffic flow around the intersection of 18th and Florida, including the short block of California Street between 18th and Florida. There's a lot of backups on that. It's a very narrow street to have 2 sides parking and 2-way traffic. And as we're moving other streets in the neighborhood to one-way, and the rest of California Street from 18th to 19th is already one-way, one idea is to make it one-way traffic. However, if it is a relief valve for the lower intersection at 18th and Florida, another option could be to remove one side of the parking that is metered parking on California Street between 18th and Florida. So there's a few ideas, but the goal is to move people faster and safely. And I think that they've not looked at the intersection in a while, and I would like them to. So just letting the commissioners know, and happy to include any feedback in that.
All right, thanks. It came through committee. I'll just move to have something on the floor to consider this this request. We have a community comment first. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. My name is Erica Linden Daniels. I can see why people might want to have that block of California be one way. But I just want to point out that in my opinion, there's a big difference between making it one way going downhill and making it one way going uphill. Making it one way going uphill, in other words, the same direction as the rest of California, in my view, is going to increase the use of California as a busy street. And it was referred to earlier that when the Adams School gets out, or when California is extremely backed up. And so by having California go one way all the way down from Florida, all the way up to the Adams School, I don't think that's going to slow things down. I think it's going to speed things up in one direction. The previous commissioner for our ANC sub SMD had tried to get speed bumps on California and was rebuffed continuously by DDOT. So I would, in my opinion, if it was made one way, I would have it going not in the same direction as the rest of California. That's simply my view, and if there's an appropriate time to express that, I will do so. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? From what I hear, we don't need to really do anything, so I'm going to move to postpone this indefinitely. Can I get a second? All right, with several. So yeah, I mean, we can all handle this as individual commissioners, it sounds like. So, and I do think this could be a much longer discussion that probably isn't appropriate tonight, because it gets into the whole fabric of how all the streets are lined, and that could take days. But all those in favor of postponing this indefinitely, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Next on the agenda, still with, oh no, we're moving from committee. Okay, good. So there's nothing from the Public Services Environment Committee this month. There are 3 general business items. Thank you so much for waiting this entire time, Monica. So this item is considering support for the aforementioned art project. That is a community art project to be temporarily located outside Marie Reed Elementary.
Come up here, maybe, in case there's people still online. I don't know if they have. Oh, here? Is that good? Is that good? Okay. Hi, I'm Monica Jambos. I'm an artist. I've lived in the neighborhood for 23 years. I'm from Bangladesh originally, and my kids went to Oyster Adams from pre-K all the way up. So I'm really excited to hear about the new school, and hopefully they will preserve more outdoor space. But so I want to do this project. I've done projects in the neighborhood before. I had this project, are the pictures up? Oh, no problem. I have this project I'm proposing for the place in front of the Marie Reed Elementary and Marie Reed Aquatics and Recreation Center, that plaza. And it would look like this. It's going to be called Swimming. It's a temporary 10-day project for next spring. Next, let me just move to the next little slide. And I'll tell you a little bit about the Storytelling with Saris project I've been doing for more than 10 years with women from my ancestral village. So we work together to work on these big Sari art pieces, which are done in collaboration with people in DC. Next. This is where the island is in the Bay of Bengal. It's very much impacted by climate change. Next. And so my assistants are the people of DC and the people of this village. And I bring in all kinds of participants from all over the city. Everyone is paid for their time. All adults are paid for their time to work on the saris. And so I actually redistribute city arts funds to the population through this project, and everyone helps me make the project. And the community partners will be the Annual Partnership Bid, the Marie Reed Elementary, DC Arts Center, Calvary Women's Services, and Acosta. It's a domestic, it's a women's services organization that works with women in recovery, women that are survivors of domestic violence and homeless women as well. And I'm also hoping to do some workshops with kids at Oyster Adams as well. Next. And so this is close-up of what some of the saris look like. They have like wood blocks, fishy, different imagery, and then handwritten and hand-painted stuff by people in DC as well. Next. So another sort of an image of what it's going to look like. I'm going to make sort of a swimming pool shape in front of the school using the existing light poles. Next. And then I'm also going to make a big wave on the side there next to the tennis courts are here and then going down. Next. And then it's a little close up. And I'm also going to have a sound walk where I capture sounds and images and you can access them. It's going to be quiet, but you'll take your phone and access them through QR codes along the side. So you'll see how the project was made. And I'm going to involve the kids in discussion. Kids, it's not just kids. Kids at the school will work on this, but also people all around DC will work on it. So we're going to have to make, I think, like 40 pieces. Next. So the idea is to talk about racism in both climate change and in education and in swimming, which was a big part of segregation, right? Apparently the Marie Reed School right now is being used to teach swimming to kids around DC, and there's a big racial impact. A lot more Black kids die in drowning than white kids, and so it's terrible. The impact of this racism, that's the historic racism in schools and rec centers. So I sort of want to talk about swimming as a fun thing, like school's out, it's going to be December swimming, and make it really fun and empowering, but also talk about, right, equity and all these things, and engage the kids in making these saris with me, and hopefully have some, there's going to be a lot of, I'm usually doing this for about 10 days, I'll have them up, and there'll be all this programming around. So we'll have I've already talked to Adams Morgan Partnership bit about making a little film about this project, 10 minutes, and having it be a preview to the movie night, so that a lot of people, 500 to 900 people go to the movie night, will also see this little film about this project. And also they will see the installation when they come to movie night, because huge draw, right? In June and May to June, the movie night is a big draw. And then, and it's really going to be a visual representation of community building and resilience in Adams Morgan. We are named for this desegregation effort, but I do think we need to keep talking about it and talking about equity, and also bringing in the next generation to realize these. So we're going to have poetry slams, performances, film screenings, and I'm going to do a site visit artist talk, which is really popular. Last year I did a project, next slide, done a number of projects. Next slide. This was last year. I think Peter was there. A lot of people may have seen this. This was the Line Hotel. And then across the street, we had like hundreds of people that showed up for this artist talk I did, just walking people through. A lot of people love to do things on the weekends in Adams Morgan. Next, it brought a lot of business to the neighborhood, restaurants and things as well. This is what it looked like in Unity Park. So the saris really move. They're not just, from my drawing, it looks like it's still, but they literally blow in the wind. They will look like water. So next, I did a project also in Admo a few years ago at the DC Arts Center that was called Concrete Dreams, and I had these little mini sculptures on the street that community made with me. Next, a picture of that. We had all these, that was in the height of COVID, or 2021. We had all these outdoor events, poetry slams. Next, I've also done stuff in Georgetown. That's in the Georgetown Canal. That was 2020. Everyone was wearing masks, even outdoors. Next, some images of some of the other projects I've done. This was the first big project I did in DC, was in Anacostia, 2019, called Rapture. And so actually the Smithsonian has made a film about this project, and two of the saris from this project 2019 are actually being collected by the Smithsonian. They're going to be in the permanent collection. So it's a piece of DC history that's actually going to become part of bigger history. So it's kind of exciting. Next, and that's another picture from Anacostia Art Center in 2019. Some pictures of what the workshops look like. These are homeless women working on the site. These are kids in Anacostia. This is right here in this Adams Morgan Community Center. No, this is Eaton Hotel. But I did a whole bunch right in here as well, down here and then upstairs. And I'm going to try to do that next year as well. So I can. This is in Bangladesh, and this was a Smithsonian project in Hawaii. And so that's the plan is that I have to apply for a grant. That's what I'm here and presenting. The grant is it's a public art building communities grant and requires that I come and present to the public and that I get feedback. So I'm passing out a little, I also have to collect public signatures. So I would love to get, feedback from people. And if you want to find out when the workshops are going to be, you can grab a card and look on my website. I'm going to be publicizing those soon. If I get the grant, I'm going to apply in July. I'll find out in October. And if I get the grant, I'll go forward with it. And it will happen sort of in this timeline and then happen in June of 2024. So, and I would love to get all of you involved in seeing it, being part of it. And I think I provided public notice. In the old days, you had to do flyers. Now it's done by listserv. So it was on Nextdoor. It was on the ADMO listserv at the Cleveland Park and on my own website and also on the ANC website. And that's my contact info. And yeah, and I'm happy to answer questions. And I need a letter from, if you all vote on this and think it's a good idea, I just didn't need a letter from the ANC. And I've sent a sample letter via Google Drive. Thank you all. Happy to take questions or get them later by email.
We did not bring this into it because it could have gone to the PSC for consideration to do the letter. So I wish I'd known because you could have brought it to my committee. As a letter because I did not quite know why you were presenting until you got to the end. Your ask was at the end, right. And that should have been at the front because we could have done a letter for you through my committee. Yeah, so I don't mind doing it here, but it could have been more specific.
That's the idea. That's the environment committee first, and then to the full committee. That's true. Yeah. That's true. Well, I'm happy to come and talk to the other committee as well.
I believe it was a timing issue. You said that there was a rush on like the specific timing, so that's why instead of going to the committee, I put it on this agenda. That's why. Yeah, no.
But I'm happy to also come and talk to
Just to.
That's usually how it typically has worked. Doesn't always. Time it would be June. Because I was not planning to have a meeting, but if we need to have a meeting to help do a letter of support for this, we can. It's first.
It's up to you all. And the DC Commission of the Arts and Humanities requires me to get a letter from the commission, the whole commission.
Considered tonight. There's no letter.
At your next meeting.
All right, so those just to recap. Sorry for the people online. It's very logistically difficult to move a cell phone around. That was my fault. But yeah, so we're discussing if this should have gone through our Public Services and Environment Committee or why it came strictly to this meeting tonight. Monica had said that there was a bit of a tight timeline, so I put it on tonight's agenda. It could go through committee. Nothing actually ever has to go through our committees. They're just nice to disperse the workload across the month. I'm prepared. We don't necessarily have to have a verbatim letter that we're looking at tonight. It would just say, as we've done in the past, the letter will be 2 sentences, and we support this project. Yeah, but we can. But the deadline is. So the next meeting is July 5th. Is that correct? So if that works with your timeline. So if the timeline works out. So it looks like this was just a misunderstanding on my part then, that I thought you had the timeline where you needed it before our July meeting would have occurred. So if that's the case. I'm going to avoid the back and forth just because I don't think people online can hear. That's my fault. But so yeah, in that case, I'll move that we just consider an actual physical, well, a tangible letter at the PSC meeting, and we can for you. I think you wanted to say something first. Here.
Yeah, just in terms of feedback on the plan, I love it. It's beautiful. It's very creative. I like the involvement from the community. Great. I want more of this in our neighborhood. Is there a reason why the display or the installation is scheduled for 1 to 2 weeks? Could it be longer? Just a question since it's so pretty.
After about 10 days. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, the first time I did this in Anacostia, it was literally for 1 day. I would put them up and take them down. And then in Georgetown, I did it for 5 days. Last year, was the longest I did it, ended up being 10 days. And I can do about 10. I'm going to try to do as long as possible. I get your point. It's true. The more people see it. So I'm going to try to extend it to about 14 days. That's my hope, so that we can get 2 weeks. But I think after that, they will fall. They will start to really rip because it's very windy here and a lot of storms in DC. And they're just clipped on. They're done very gently, so they're not, I'm not using any permanent fixtures. So, but thank you for that. No, I've been trying to make them longer.
Good comments.
Your installations before in the neighborhood have been beautiful and really lovely to have, and I'm happy to support this whenever it's most appropriate to support it.
And just to say that point again, it's up to us to decide, of course, but there have been letters in the past, including on this commission, where there's no actual letter. Like I wrote the letter afterwards that just says, hey, we support this project. So it's up to you. I mean, I'm fine with postponing this and we can do it the committee way. What are your thoughts? Okay. Okay. I think, a link that, well, I guess you changed it, but I did link I've uploaded the PDF onto our drive and linked that into the agenda, I believe, so that there was that included, but I might have mistakenly not updated that. Okay. All right. So let's just, I'll move to consider this. Oh, no, you're right. No, this is
To actually discuss the substance of it, I got 2 questions. One, how much are you requesting from Commission on Arts and Humanity? And 2, what is the sum total of the pot that the Commission on Arts and Humanity has that it's giving grants from?
I don't know number 2. The Public Art Building Communities grant is it's a big grant. It's a maximum of $75,000, and I don't know what amount they will give. They have given different amounts, but I'm going to ask for the whole thing because I pay people to build this thing. I'm going to ask for the whole thing. I got the whole thing last year, and there's literally. They don't even spend all the money usually. They are looking for applicants. They are always they are looking for applicants. So there's not a lot of people that apply for these. I didn't apply for anything this year. It was so much work to do it last year that I took some time off. But yeah, so that's the pot. But generally the DC Commission is looking for applicants, and anyone can apply for public art projects. Individuals and nonprofit nonprofit organizations can apply. So I'm applying as an individual artist. So that's the amount, and and they've increased it based on feedback from people. It used to be a $50,000 maximum, and now it's a $75,000 maximum. And when a bid applies for it, like a business improvement district could apply for it, they can apply for $150,000. It's one of the biggest grants that the DC Arts Commission gives. I don't know how much they have to give. I don't think they give it out every year. There's always the money left over. They don't have enough applicants. They're out there trying to pitch for applicants. So if people want to apply, there is money out there that we need to get, and this is a way that actually I pay a lot of low income folks have been part of my project since I did my project in Anacostia. I actually used the DC funds to provide internet and tablets to a lot of them because they had to do Zoom workshops during the pandemic. And several of the seniors, I'm continuing to fund their internet Even though it's a reduced fee from Comcast, it's still expensive for them. A lot of the funding goes to the community here, and also some of the women in Bangladesh who work on the saris also get paid out of it. So, and then I usually hire all DC people to do photography, installation. It's all local folks that, so the 75K does not go to me. The artist fees, I think maximum is, 15%, 10 or 15%. The rest of it is just paid out to costs. I'm not allowed to buy any equipment with it or food with it or drinks or anything like that. It's just supposed to be artistic fees. And so last year, I think we spent some money on posters. There was, things like that we gave out. We gave out free posters to the community. These are great questions. Yeah, people don't know about it.
Yeah, thank you for addressing that. Yeah, sorry about like as we said before, we have two non-working microphones that would make this whole process much easier. So hopefully in the future. So I'll withdraw what I'm saying. I mean, I think, in my opinion, of course, everyone's decide, but we're prepared just to say I support this. It'd be hard to convince me to not support one of your projects. They're very good, well thought of, well established in the neighborhood. If there's contention, if you want to have a committee meeting and to have this come up 2 more times, you are free to suggest that. Yeah, no. I'll just repeat. Wasn't clear if we're going to support a letter tonight, was what Commissioner Laughlin said. So yeah, I mean, like I said, the letter consists, and just like the past letters, they consist of a couple sentences saying we support this project. So I'm going to move that we do that. Can I get a second? This is not coming from committee. Second. All right. So all those in favor of supporting this project, which is a beautiful project, one will get done, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. The motion passes. So there are 2 more. Hopefully it won't take too long. So one, and they're both related. So 2 months ago, we had a couple of items that passed, versus to apply for potentially having an intern match to do some of the kind of behind the scenes work, which would in some ways complement what Sean's been doing. And also a round of applause for Sean, who's been doing a lot tonight. Thank you. I don't think there's a clause in your contract that talks about the physical endurance that you'll have to take, but thank you again for this. So yeah, so we have, I think we're close to having an intern match, but the caveat is that it's strongly suggested by the Office of the ANC that does that matching that we offer a stipend. So I think that's true. We should do that. It's just a matter of assessing how much. The amount that I kind of have looked at, just based on what we paid Mary in the past, is I think roughly $250 a month, averaging 5 to 8-ish hours of work per month. That's roughly what I was guessing. What are thoughts, feelings on this? That number sound right? I'll start with the treasurer. What do you think?
I think that's a very reasonable number. I think we're going to have to. It's a very the $250 a month is a very reasonable number. That's 3,000. We are not budgeted for. Well, it'll only be for 6 more months. We're not budgeted, so we would have to come back and reappropriate funds from other line items. The logical place would be from the grant money, because we have sufficient funds there. What did we do for the one grant? We can't do the check for that because it is. I'll explain it. Yeah.
Thank you. So I guess there's a couple of points. You go first, actually.
Yeah. Can you clarify what the responsibilities would be and for the number of hours? I'm thinking that 5 to 8 hours seems. We've got a lot of things we could have them do. I'm excited. And I think that in terms of giving them substantive work, maybe 10 hours a month or even 15 hours a month. But I also want to make sure they're compensated fairly.
Yeah, I agree. I put that into the application, which I put down basically a lot of the things that Commissioner Foskini and I have been doing for a few months that Mary used to do. From the top of my head, it's things like making sure that there's community notification at least a week in advance of every ANC meeting and committee meeting, making sure that minutes are posted, and we have to do this in multiple ways. So updating our website with this information, as well as putting it on a community forum like the listserv that we use. Also making sure that the minutes are written every month and distributed to commissioners. Also other things like communicating with commissioners or attending the meetings to make sure that there's committee summaries that so the rest of the commission knows what happened on the committees. A bunch of little things in aggregate that is a lot of work, but individually are not that much. So there's an exhaustive list I have it written down that I can show if anyone wants to know. But it's already been submitted, and ANC that says that we have an intern basically ready to talk to us, but just they haven't sent their email address yet. So I'm excited for that to happen. I mean, I guess on the hours, it'll probably be in flex some, but the other item is a student-oriented thing, so I don't know like exactly how long the duration would be. So I don't know how to budget for that. We can maybe even say with the expectation of for the duration of the internship, $250 a month, and then it comes to the point where they graduate. I don't know the year in school. We could, I mean, in my mind, looking forward, try to offer them to stay on board just as a non-student. We pay them like we did Mary. I think that would be valuable enough to transform a future conversation to be had. I guess another point that's related to this, which is the second item or the last item tonight, would we have enough money to both pay a stipend to an intern and have some flexibility to complement the funds for having our website revamped? Like, how would that get into with the numbers just off the top of your head? And if we need to postpone the second item tonight or this one right now to make the decisions like that.
We could reprogram, we could redo our budget and have enough money to pay $3,000 for an intern. We could reprogram and redo our budget. So we don't know what the redoing the website is going to cost, do we?
So the quote that, and this is not this point, but the next one, the quote that I was given, so we applied for a maximum of $5,000 of the technical assistance fund, which could be used for a number of things. We've chosen to support getting our website better and easier for someone like an intern to be able to update regularly, so we don't have to train them on antiquated back-end software. To complement that, the vendor, which thank you again for the work that Commissioner Laughlin did in finding a vendor who has experience working with DC government and Main Streets, they told me yesterday on the phone that it's hard for them to really, really specifically say to the dollar what they would get, just because it's a matter of the hours of labor, because they can't entirely predict, but estimating that a total price of 8,000 to 10,000 is what they would look at, and we could get up to 5,000. So that's the question: is if what we want to spend our money on and what we can afford to do.
I can tell you right now, no, not both. You got to choose. I mean, we have enough money if we don't do any more grants to reprogram grant money for either the intern or for updating the website. It would be, and would we have it? Would be in the fourth quarter. It'd be the fourth quarter. We might be able to start the website work in the fourth quarter.
And the other thing I could think of, I mean, will be applied to the next point, which I'll probably address more specifically in a second, but we could, we don't necessarily have to, we can try to convince them to do less work or what will be covered under the grant as well. I just don't know exactly what that would look like. So I even talk to them if it comes to me downloading a ton of PDFs from the last million years and just doing that labor to save the money, something like that might be feasible. I'll just, yeah. So with the point at hand, more comment.
If we do have to choose, I personally would vote to update the website. That's a long-term investment. We could sustain an easier to use website until we have funds to have an intern do that work. That's just my personal opinion.
Any other thoughts from commissioners? Any comments, questions? Anyone? I do not know what's being laughed about, so I'm with you people online, because I don't know what's going on. Anyone online have their hand up? No. Anyone, those of you remaining, any questions, comments? Okay, so I don't want to make a move. I guess I'm motion. Yeah.
That we reprogram from our existing budget. How much was that one grant? we can reprogram $3,000 from our grant budget into an intern budget.
For the remainder of the calendar year?
No, we don't have to do it for the remainder of the calendar year. We could reduce it by that much. We got 6 months, 250 times 6. What's that? That's 1,500. So we'd only have to reprogram 1,500. So we could reprogram 1,500 from our existing grant money into the intern. Right. We would be, I move that we reprogram $1,500 from the grant line item into I believe it would come under a services line item specifically for an intern for up to 6 months at up to $250 per month.
I second it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We have one abstention. All right, so one last item tonight. Like I mentioned, it is, let me get the exact wording. Actually, my wording was not very good. Consider using ANC 1C funds to update the ANC 1C website. I've explained a bunch of it, but basically it's that they said that kind of expectedly, the money that we need and the money we have are not the same number. So what do we do? I think that it's worth, we don't have to make this decision right now either. It'll make it a different conversation for me to go back to the vendor or potential vendor and say, we did not vote to give you, to have more money to spend for you, but I can do that and see what I can do. Anyone have thoughts? Well, I'll move, actually no. Anyone have thoughts on this item? Comments?
We're trying to find another vendor that might do it for the price point that we can afford.
Probably.
It was hard from that list that we were sent a list of vendors that we can select from, and it was a lot of their licenses were going to expire or were about to expire. So I stayed away from those, and I tried to pick ones that were within the zip code for Ward 1 and ANC because I wanted to support local. And then when I selected, they did a lot of work with the community groups already, so I just had the most faith in them. A vendor that did not have a working website got off. They're done because if you can't have a working website to get business, then you can't work for us. So that's why I can go through the list again to see if we can find a cheaper, one that can meet our price point. But Blank Street, the one I did find, seemed to be the best. Or not Blank Street, but Blank something. Yeah.
I should have clarified. And so Commissioner Laughlin said, there's a list of not the only vendors we can choose from, but the preferred ones from DC government in the past. So right. we can veer outside of that list.
Yeah, there's not this. They're qualified as a business.
So they're qualified as small business. So it's a preferential list for this. So yeah, I think it's worth trying to get other quotes, maybe one or two others to see a comparison. So yeah, I'll vote to postpone, or I'll move to postpone this item to our July meeting. And hopefully we'll have something more clear. We'll talk about then. Can I get a second for that motion? Second. All right. Any other further comments, questions on this? Appreciate everyone bearing with us this entire meeting to get to the most anticlimactic last possible bullet point of the night. All right, all those in favor of postponing this item until July, just say aye. 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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? That does it. Thank you. Thank you everyone online as well that has bared with our technological difficulties. Hopefully this will be the last time, but in any case, appreciate you being here.